So yeah, like I say, the bench was the biggest difference for me between the things. For Conte to actually be able to, that's exactly what he's been crying out for, is to be able to change a game with his substitutions, and he did. And he did. You can't kind of say he didn't. I think he just, like I say, would wish he could have got those players on just before that Reece James goal. And you never know what way the game could have turned in those last minutes if it had gone that way. Talk about defence. Do you know what? And you know I'm one of Christian Romero's biggest fans. I think he's going to be absolutely world class. I think he can actually really be a talisman for Spurs going forward. He could end up being Spurs Van Dijk. But I didn't think he played very well at Stamford Bridge. I thought he was quite ropey at times. Some of his decision making wasn't great. And I didn't like the way he lost focus in a fair few moments as well. It was interesting because I was watching in the pre-match warm-up. They did their final little sprint they always do before they come into the tunnel. And just before, as they were lining up for that, Højbjerg was having a really intense discussion with Romero, who didn't look as intense whatsoever. He was listening, but he was not. Højbjerg's got that kind of almost weird intensity to the way he speaks. And yeah, I just found that quite interesting. It was really talking to him quite strongly, like that kind of thing. I don't know. It's funny because I was talking to some people in Spurs before the game, and there was a lot of talk about Romero, and maybe Romero would, maybe he would be the one that would let the side down a little bit in the intensity, in the fire of the game, whether he would just lose his cool, and he kind of almost did. He really almost did. We had obviously the Cucurella moment where he pulled his hair, although Tuchel was saying that he did it before as well. I must admit I didn't see him do it before, but certainly saw the incident in the box. It's one of those where I think as the referee sees it, it's a straight out foul, and then there's no chance for the second corner to then come in for the corner. I'm trying to remember if it was the actual corner it was leading up to. Yeah, no, it was, because that was why they had to check it back. And that was a weird quirk of VAR, that VAR can't then correct whether it was a foul or not. VAR has to look whether it was violent conduct. And the funny thing is, in the English rules, football rules, whereas in rugby, hair pulling is a thing and is mentioned in the rules, for some reason in football it's not. So there wasn't actually a precedent set for VAR to tell Anthony Taylor, oh yeah, by the way, you should call that back for a foul. It's funny because that's one of the things where I could see why Chelsea would be aggrieved, because he shouldn't have done it. He didn't need to do it either. It was a little bit, strange in that respect again. And I probably didn't like even more than that, and I know some fans will love it, and it will only endear him to Tottenham fans more, was after the goal went in off James, Romero went up to James and went right in his face, like really went up close to him. And we've seen that before. He did it to Maguire at Old Trafford last season, and then like minutes later, Ronaldo scored the winning goal there with kind of getting away from Romero to score it. I don't like it. I don't like that goading of opponents after. It's not very classy. It's a bit crass. And yes, I'm sure some fans will love it and they'll think it's kind of cult hero status worthy. I get it. And I'm pretty sure Romero got man of the match afterwards, which I found, I think it was tongue-in-cheek. I think it was because of how much he'd wound up Tuchel with the hair pulling and all of that. But he definitely wasn't man of the match in terms of performance. And I dug out some quotes that Conte gave me about Romero from a couple of months back. Because if you remember, last season he picked up 11 yellow cards and 1 red card. And there was a real moment where we all kind of thought, he only needs 2 more. And he's going to get a 2-game suspension at a really crucial time for Spurs. And Conte, who funnily enough only a couple of weeks ago was talking about Romero and was talking about him needing to have a hot heart and a cold mind, was the way he was talking about it. And I always find this with Romero and when it comes to Conte, and look at it, look at the stuff he says about him. If you ask him how good Romero is, Conte will always give him a little bit of praise, but the bulk of what he says about him is about improving and how he wants this to change and that to change. And I look back at those quotes that he said when I spoke to him. If you remember, he said to me, I have to, how did he say it? I have to help the player in good and bad ways. So I asked him kind of for a bit more clarification on that when I next spoke to him. And he said back then, I think it was in March, Christian is a player who has to be focused in every moment of the game. If he's good to be focused from the start, from the first second to the last second of the game. He's a really important player for us. I think he has to improve in this situation to be focused in every moment of the game. Sometimes he takes a yellow card that he can avoid. I think that he has to improve in this aspect, to be focused from the start until the end. Sometimes you can't explain this to him in a good manner. Sometimes you have to shout, and he laughed when he said that. But he's a good guy, and he understands very well that what I do is always best for the team and is best for the player to improve himself, because I think he has a great quality to become a top defender. So when I think this is important, it's important to find the right way to improve the player. And I mean, to Romero's credit, he hasn't had a yellow card since. And I think I saw a stat where he didn't actually have a foul. He didn't commit a foul against Chelsea, which it's such a weird one. You know, in one respect, definitely that's the case, but there should have been fouls that he probably, should have been given away or should have had against him, kind of thing. But yeah, Romero, and I am a huge fan of Romero, and I just felt I didn't like some of the things he got up to. And I know he straddles that line between the sublime and ridiculous in terms of he can absolutely save your bacon and the next moment can seem like a bit of a liability. And I think he's only 24. He's got a lot to learn. He's Serie A Defender of the Year a couple of seasons ago. But it's a side of his game that I think he can curb without losing his aggressive streak. You can definitely have that aggressive streak in the way you push out and you play. But I don't think that means that you have to yank people's hair and you have to scream in opponents' faces when they've put the ball in their own net. I don't think that that's the same kind of thing. But yeah, I know some Spurs fans will absolutely adore that sort of stuff. But yeah, he wasn't at his best. He wasn't.